This is Araceli and Colette, the dynamic change for you to some things about real estate and finances.
ACDC!
So, ACDC, yeah. Well, let me introduce myself. My name is Araceli, for those who don't know me, and I'm a transition financial specialist. I work mostly with single professional women to rearrange their finances to get the best out of what you have and get to retire you early, get more out of what, enjoy life. So Colette, tell me what you do.
Oh, my name is Colette Rava. I am a residential real estate broker. I work mostly GTA West, but I can work anywhere in Ontario. I can buy anywhere in Ontario, really. Mm-hmm. And Araceli and I both have something in common, which is income properties. But today, we thought we would talk about people going through transition, like a divorce or separation. So especially men and women can both benefit actually from this episode because there are a lot of options out there and there's not a lot of information out there that you can easily get. So that's what we're here for today. Excuse me.
Well, one of the things that I can tell you, Colette, is that when we're going through a divorce or a separation, especially if you do have a matrimonial home, a home that you bought together, it becomes very emotional because, first of all, obviously, your home is an emotional thing. You live there, you work together, maybe you raise children.
Right.
So it has a lot of memories. It has a lot of things that it means a lot to you. So it's more than a home. You're losing more than just a home. It's your memories. And people become very, very attached, very emotional. And especially if you are going through a bad breakup, at that point in time, everybody that when you're angry, when you're emotional, it gets the best out of you. So now you're not thinking straight, you're not reasonable.
Right.
And now you said, wow, I want to get her or get him, for all I can. And I don't care. And I'm just going to ask for more, right? And it happens to all of us. Like it has nothing to do.
50% of married people. And did you know the statistic is actually even worse for second marriages? So second marriages, the statistic is something like 70% end in divorce. Yeah. So a note to the wise, don't get married again. Just date. Just go find someone and don't live together. Just have fun the second time around.
Don't say that. There's got to be some hope,
I always want to have fun. Everybody should be having fun, no matter what.
But you should be having fun no matter what. So
exactly,
I think that's my motto. Have fun no matter what.
So I agree with you 100%. It is emotional. Usually what happens is one of the couple decides to split and then the other one is kind of, possibly taken by surprise. But even though when you really think about who's making the decision to split, it's still emotional for the other party because they have, I hope, have tried their best during the marriage. And for whatever reason, they're unhappy or things have broken down to the point where they're like, okay, well, this isn't really suiting either of us. I will make the decision for both of us. So when that happens, you have two separate people, right? So in the courts, when you go through separation and a divorce, you both have to have legal counsel. Makes sense, right? But when you go to sell your house, there are a lot of people that even, let's say on the buying end, that they go directly to the listing agent and they double end it, which is kind of ridiculous. So there's the whole point of what I'm trying to say is when you actually put your house up on the market, if you need to sell it, if you don't need to sell it, please have your own legal counsel, please have your own agent. So there's nothing to say or to stop you from saying, okay, husband has their own real estate agent, wife has their own real estate agent. And if you do have to sell it, they can co-list it. And that's totally okay. There are some wrinkles, but generally speaking, you can do that if you really don't want to pick the same real estate agent.
Correct.
In the best scenario, you have one agent that can actually be collaborative. I like this word today. That can be collaborative to talk to the wife and to talk to the husband separately if that's what you need. So people like me, where I have special training with that, when you know, communication is huge in this business, and there's a lot of people that really can't communicate very well. But just saying that, if you do have to sell your house, or if you don't have to sell your house, please get independent real estate advice from independent agents. And then that way you can have a better understanding of what your options are. Like, this is the biggest thing for me. You have to understand there's always options. Always. Don't worry about what that other party is saying. If you don't like it, if it doesn't sit well, find your own counsel. And it's not just a lawyer, but financially. Somebody wants to buy somebody out. Who should they talk to?
Yeah.
Araceli.
Exactly. Well, of course, you know, you always have to have something, but let me explain to you why you need to have consult. And it's not so much for having it, but because it removes the emotion out of the transaction. And at the time, you know, you might say, oh no, I want this, I want that. But is that reasonable to the other party, right?
Right.
So when you have independent counsel, financial, real estate, they can tell you, says, listen, this is kind of what you are entitled to. We might be able to negotiate a little bit better, whatever, depending on what the other party wants. Yeah. But at the end of the day, remember, if you get married, it's two people. If you get divorced, it's two people. So it's the same thing. And just removing emotions from when you're doing that, it will save you a ton of money, especially in legal consult. Because the more you argue, the more you don't agree on something, the more actually the lawyers will make. Right. So and that is money that is taken away from you, which you could have negotiated something better at that time instead.
You want it in your pocket. Right. Exactly. So that's a very good point. If you can be amicable, so that's another great word I like to use. Yeah. If the two parties can be amicable and you can actually do a lot of the paperwork, let's say, that you know this has to be done, and you know the lawyers are just going to constantly charge you to remind you have to do it, remind you to do this, remind you to do that, and you don't have to pay them whatever $500, $600, $700 an hour for that reminder. You get it done, you get it expedited, you get it off your plate. The one thing that I was going to say too was, when you think of lawyers, how do you find a good lawyer? That's a really tricky question because there's so many different ways you can do this. So one thing that I've had some really great people tell me, well, give me advice or give me pointers on things that they have gone before. So that's the other thing too. Don't think that you're the first person to ever get a divorce or get a separation. People have done it before, and there's a good way and there's a not so good way. So what you have as options, which is not a good way, is to actually go to the point of going to court. I heard this is the hardest, the most stressful, especially if you have young children. The best way, I think, in my opinion, if you can be amicable, is mediation. But mediation means you can hire not a lawyer. It's a mediator that will sit between the two of you, and you don't necessarily have to be in the same room, but they'll say, okay, what do you want? What do you want? And we'll come to a conclusion that makes, more of a win-win situation. You should always get legal counsel. Don't get me wrong. A mediator will not do it 100%. You still need to get a lawyer. There's something else that someone just recently told me about, and it's called collaborative law. So if you both pick lawyers that have gone to school or have taken these collaborative law courses, you can find a lawyer through collaborativeprofessionalstoronto.com. And then there's a list of all these lawyers, and they will talk to you and say, this is how the collaborative law process works. And it's a little bit like mediation. I don't know too much about it, but it sounds really good. And I think there are set fees with that as well. So please do your due diligence, find out, but you have options. That's the whole point of this, is that, do your research first. Don't go with the first lawyer because he's a shark or she's a shark and, she got everything and he got nothing, sort of thing. That should not be the goal. The goal is, okay, you actually did love one another at some point, and if you can just remember that, and especially again with kids, you know, the kids are the ones that always get the raw end of the deal.
That is actually super important. I tell you something that, you know, this is only, it's for men and women. And when you are emotional, you have kids,
Yeah.
sometimes one party or the other will use that as leverage.
Right.
And that is not right, but some people would do it. So you really have to know where you are, and hire special counsel, because I've seen some people that really have got a really bad deal after the divorce. And
Right.
especially when it comes down to real estate. If you do own real estate, please, please, please get a financial counsel. They get a real estate legal counsel.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, with something that is called equalization, right? Sometimes somebody will have a little bit more like assets for retirement. They have kids, but the kids are going to be taken care in a certain way. They're going to live with one parent or the other. So all of those things play a part in it.
Right.
And the thing is, at the end of the day, you also have to take a look at what is going to happen to you after you get divorced. Right. You have to look after yourself, because you already grew some assets within the marriage. So don't lose those. Right.
Well,
it is very, very important.
Yeah. And this is the thing that I think, especially for women, we tend to, you know, not to pick on women, but we tend to let our husbands take care of the finances, or say, you know what, like, I'll put the money in RSP, or I'll make the decision, we should do this. Honestly, if you're not doing this already, you should sit down as a couple, every month, every at least 6 months, to say, okay, where's our money? How is it doing? What's happening in there? Do we want to move it? You know, and really have your own counsel at that point too, to say, you know what, I really don't like RSPs. I don't want you, husband or wife, to tell me that we should put our money in RSPs. It's not really the best scenario. So even though you want to trust that other person to say, do whatever you want, it's fine, it's our money, you know, what's going to happen. But then at the end of the day, you go, yeah, you know what, RSPs are making like whatever, they took a dip in the market, they're terrible, you know, I'm going to have to pay taxes on it later on. Like, how am I going to, what's the best scenario? It's
but
really
you have to make a plan, Colette, because you know what, everybody is different. And in some cases, an RSP would be the best thing for somebody.
Right. I'm not saying it's not the best, but I'm just saying, if you're not agreeing on where the money should go. But
you do have to agree on where things are going to go. And remember, RSP is an individual thing. Sometimes you will get something through your work if you do have that benefit. And sometimes it's, you know, it's best to have it, even though you don't think that is the best solution. But I think that you have to look at the long term and all of the assets that you have, whether it's a property, a rental property, maybe you have some stocks, RSPs or TFSAs. Maybe you have a cottage as well. So all of it plays a part in it, because it's not only what you have today, but how are you going to sustain yourself in your old age, and what you wish to pass on to your kids, if you do have kids. Or to somebody else, right?
Or if you are going to separate. So you have to be aware of all that stuff. Do it now, you know, knock on wood, if you're not going to get divorced, that's great. But if you happen to have, you know, this is the thing that Araceli and I always think about, is planning, you know, 10, 20, 30 years down the road. Like when you were saying, oh, you can put it in this or you can put it in that, the one thing that just popped into my head was diversify. So make sure that whatever portfolio you have, you diversify, and everybody's going to tell you that. Don't put everything in real estate, or don't put everything in your RSP. There are things that you should do to diversify your portfolio, and somebody like Araceli can help you with that, because she's the financial advisor.
Yeah, thank you.
You know, like you have, I want to always have counsel, because I can't possibly know everything. So why wouldn't I hire a professional?
Nobody really knows everything at one possible time. And I think that is the best thing that you can do. But most importantly, is just to remove the emotion and to kind of step back a little bit, and it says, well, how much is this going to cost me? Because I want to fight, and I want this and I want the other, right? So if you become reasonable, which sometimes is hard, believe me, I've been there, and you want to say, I'm gonna, get him. I'm just gonna get for everything he's got.
Oh,
That's what goes into your head. But at the end of the day, you have to think about your future.
yes.
Your financial future is very important, because sometimes you are on the, wrong end of the stick. And what happens is some people that are very forceful, very mad, the other party will walk away and I said, okay, whatever you want, just, I don't want to fight with you. And sometimes that is not the right way to go about it either. I know somebody personally that walked away from 2 properties and he signed them away. And, and because we go like, no.
Because maybe was the other person a bully?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And he just said, you know what? I don't want to argue. I just want out. Whatever you want, you can have.
And that's when you hire someone to be your advocate, because if you can't fight with that person, you can't have that contact with them. You say, talk to my lawyer. The lawyer will use his or her abilities to advocate for you, because, and something just popped into my head, which actually has a lot to do with this whole story. Not in that specific person's case, but in many, many cases, what I've heard, when people get angry and they get upset and the other person, they feel bullied, stuff like that. So first of all, get really good representation. Have somebody that will not only represent you, but also advocate for you and be a good person to give you really good advice. So that's one thing. The other thing too, that someone just told me like not too long ago, they said, well, what do you want? And I said, I don't know. I want it all. They said, okay, write it down. I went, oh, okay. Because you have so many things jumbled in your head. You're working, you have your kids, you have to pay your bills, you have your parents, you have COVID, like, all these layers of stress. And then on top of it, you have to also deal with the lawyer saying, we need this. And your ex is saying, we need this, we need this. So to really focus to say, okay, this is what I want. Of course, you're going to say, I want everything, but there is the law, right? Everybody wants everything, but the law to say, this is what you're allowed to ask for. Yeah. But there's also to say, hey, there's always room for negotiation. Let's negotiate. Correct. And if you can keep it amicable, then let's see what happens, in that way. Well, you're going to end up with everything. Yeah.
You're going to save yourself some headache. You're going to save yourself some money. And you also, remember, you always have to look at the future. And sometimes at that point in time, you don't see that this is going to pass, because it does. Yes. Right? Yes. And then at the end of the day, am I going to be, what is it going to happen to me? Like, are we going to split the assets that we have, or is he going to take it, or is she going to take it? Right. Because they have the kids, or I have the kids. What am I going to do? Am I going to have to start working if you didn't work before? Of course. Are you going to have enough money to sustain the house if you're going to buy the other person out? Right. All of those things, they require a lot of detail. And somebody like myself, I can help you with all those numbers to figure it out. And Colette can help you figure out, this is how much
you can have to someone. Maybe you can buy your house. Yeah.
Exactly. Like, maybe you can keep it. Maybe she can give you ideas about maybe doing some income coming
generate
from your house. Like, if you could rent something, she will be able to tell you, maybe we can do this. Maybe we can separate the house or the basement, something to have some more income coming in. Be able to, have that gap.
I hate
and have that property is still in your name. And, that's actually one of the mistakes that I made when I divorced. We sold the house because I couldn't afford it all by myself. And at the end of the day, I go back and I said, you know what? I could have just rented a room or something.
I know.
But this is just after the fact. And so
what's my favorite saying? The best antidote for fear is knowledge. So all of that, when you think of going through a separation, going through a divorce, having all these balls in the air, it's all fear. Like, it's all stress and fear. And then if you think, how am I going to, get through this? So one day at a time, but also this is why we are here, to help you through the process, to say, okay, one thing at a time. So let's do this one thing.
Yeah.
You get through that, then the next thing, then the next thing, and really when you look at it in that perspective, it's not scary. But if you don't know, and you know what, how many clients come to you and say, oh my God, it's so scary. I get the same thing.
I think it is scary at that time, you know, because you've never gone through it. After you see it behind and you say, oh,
well,
it wasn't that bad.
Right.
But when you are immersed, it's like, you know, you're drowning and nobody can save you at that time. And those feelings are there and they're valid, but don't let the feelings get the best out of you when it terms of negotiating your assets.
Right.
And my point is, if you do have a property, make every effort you can to see if you can keep it.
Okay, that brings me to I love it. I love it. That brings me to next week. Can we talk about rent to own? Because this is a question that I've had a few people ask me, and it's a little bit of a interesting thing. And it's been around for a while, but not a lot of people do it right. And it can be very scary. Talk about fear.
Yeah.
But if you're okay with that, maybe we can talk about it next week.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, because I'm just looking at our time, so I think we're almost up. So
yeah. And absolutely, there's so many things, and please do let us know if there's anything that you would like to know more about in terms of real estate investing, anything about finances, how to deal with it. The same if you're selling, buying, anything like that, Colette might be able to help you with it. So just ask us questions. I also I got a message from a friend of mine. His name is David. And he said he's watched us last week, and he's if he's watching today, hi David, and thank you for watching. Please remember to share and like it. If you find value, please let us know, and also ask us questions if you want to see something specific when it comes down to real estate investing and or finances. So
okay.
With that said, well, thank you very much for watching, and we will see you next week, and we will talk about rent to own. Can it be possible in Canada?
Yes. Okay. Sounds good. I'm excited. Yay.
Thank you so much, Colette.
Thanks, Araceli. Talk to you soon.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.